could apply to your personal life. And so here's what I want to talk to you about tonight. I want to talk to you about letting go. And that's right. I'm talking about letting go. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I believe that most of us, in order for us to get to the next level, in order for us to move on, in order for us to get closer to our goals and our dreams, we're always thinking about the things that we need to accomplish and the things that we need to attain. But I tell you something that is really, really important oftentimes is you actually letting go. Now, I don't know what that thing is for you, what that thing is that you need to let go of. Perhaps you need to let go of some toxic relationships. Maybe you need to let go of a grudge or something you're holding up against somebody. Maybe perhaps you need to let go of something that is no longer serving you. There's a method, an ideology, or a thought process that is no longer serving you. It's no longer allowing you to accomplish your goals and your dreams. And what happens to so many of us, we just continue to cling on. We hold on to those old toxic relationships. We hold on to those old ideas. We hold on to those old grudges. We hold on to something that is keeping us from moving forward. And what I'm saying to you is this: if you want to take your business to the next level, if you want to take your relationship to the next level, if you want to take your life to the next level, then it is going to be mandatory that you shed some things. It's going to be mandatory that you leave some things behind. And you see, that's not always a very easy concept for people to grasp. As a matter of fact, most of us will hold on to things all the way to our detriment. As a matter of fact, you know what? We often associate holding on with being powerful and being strong. And we say, hey, you know what? It takes a lot of strength to hold on. But here's what I want to tell you, and I want you to write this down. You know what? Sometimes it takes even more strength to let go than it does to hold on. And so I know that there's some relationships that may perhaps some people have been in your life for a very long time. And so it's difficult for you to grasp the concept or the idea of actually letting go of those relationships. But those relationships, unfortunately, the ones that we need to shed ourselves are the ones that are toxic, the ones that are draining, the ones that unfortunately, those relationships, that those people who are constantly undermining the things that you're looking to make happen. And if you continue to surround yourself with those type of people, unfortunately, instead of helping you to get closer to your goals and your dreams, instead of helping you to realize the things that you're looking to accomplish, guess what they do? They pull you away. They pull you in the opposite direction. And I tell you, that's not a very easy thing to do. I think about particularly, I had a good friend of mine. You know, this was my buddy. I mean, every single day we talked on the phone. Every weekend we hung out. I mean, I remember all the time we would head out to South Beach, and we had primarily a social type of friendship. I mean, it was always around going to sporting events. It was always around going out to different clubs and venues and having a great time, socializing and so forth. And then I realized that my life started to take a different path, and I started to get a little more serious about different aspects of my life. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to grow a business. I wanted to take my career to the next level. I wanted to make more impact. And every time I tried to have meaningful conversations with this friend, all they ever wanted to talk about was all the social things. All they wanted to talk about was what party was going on, what event was taking place that weekend, or the next sporting event, or what this particular person was up to. And so I noticed I had gotten to that place in the relationship, in our friendship, that I came to a realization, wait a second, maybe perhaps I've outgrown this particular friendship. Because this friendship is very much one-dimensional. See, our friendship was primarily all social. It was about going out. It was about entertaining. It was about going to different sporting events and so forth. And what I realized is that now I was getting to a different place in my life. I had a new set of priorities. But this friend only had one thing to offer in our friendship. And so I'll be the first one to tell you that it was very difficult for me when I came to the realization that it was time for me to cut ties with that particular friendship. It was very, very difficult for me to move on. And the reason why is because this had been my friend for so long. This had been my friend now for months and even for years. The reason why it was so difficult is because we had so many good memories together. The reason why it was so difficult is because I felt like, I really knew him, and we had so many funny memories and people we hung out with and so forth. But I was so crystal clear that the path and the direction that I was heading to, that this friendship was not going to be sustainable. And I'll be the first one to admit to you that it was very, very emotionally draining for me when I realized that my friend, who didn't necessarily do anything to me, it wasn't like he did something to violate our friendship. It wasn't like he stabbed me in the back. It wasn't as if he specifically did something, but we had just gotten to that place in our friendship where it was time to sever ties. And that was a very, very, very difficult thing for me to do. And I tell you, I really, really weighed heavily on making that decision. And even after finally building the courage to make that decision, I felt very bad about it. And the reason being is because I felt as if I had basically abandoned the friendship, even though the person didn't necessarily do anything to me. But what I came to a realization is that the moment that I severed ties with that particular friendship, that it made room for new friendships and different type of friendships that now had much greater depth to it. So now I started to form friendships with people who were at the same place that I was and made different things a priority, like their spirituality. I started having different types of friendships with people who are also working on developing and growing their business. I started to have different type of friendships with people who are really committed to strengthening their personal relationships with the people most important to them in their lives and so forth. And so I started to attract new type of friendships and friendships that weren't just one dimensional. But I tell you this, that I believe personally that the only reason why these new friendships came into my life is because I was willing to make room for them by severing some old ties. And here's what I got to say to you. Chances are you are holding on to something right now in your personal life. You're holding on to something in your business. You're holding on to something that unless you're willing to cut ties, unless you're willing to separate yourself from that thing, then unfortunately, guess what happens? You won't make room for this, whatever it is that you desire for in your life. So if you're looking to have some masterminds, some great people that you can connect with, some people that can help you to take your business to the next level, guess what? You got to make room for those type of friendships. If you're looking to grow from a spiritual standpoint, then guess what? You've got to make sure that you spend some time in growing those type of relationships and spending some time to invest in those areas in your life. And truth be told, you cannot do that if you're occupying that space with toxic or negative people or people who just simply you have outgrown. And one of the most difficult things that all of us will ever have to do is to evaluate our friendships, evaluate different things that are going on in our life, and make the decision to cut ties and make the decision to step up and move forward to the next level. You know, there was one particular time, and I love sharing this story because it really helps to create a visual. And I remember one particular time I had to head out to the West Coast. And typically a trip like that's not a big deal. But in this particular instance, the reason why I had some extra things to ponder and think about is because at that particular time, I had this amazing German Shepherd, this dog. And for those of you who own pets or you know anybody who owns a pet, well, normally if you're taking a 3-day trip away, you've got to make sure that whatever pet you have, in my case, this German Shepherd, I had to make sure that she was going to receive her food, her water, and she was going to be walked on a daily basis. And so since I knew I was going to go out to the West Coast, I was flying out to either California or Las Vegas, I forget at the time. And so I reached out to one of my friends. I said, hey, listen, I'm going to head out of town. I'm going to be out of town for about 3 days. I need you to do me a huge favor. And so here's what I need you to do. If you wouldn't mind, and my dog's name was Jasmine, I said, if you could, while I'm away, could you just do me a really, really quick favor? Since you live only about 12 minutes from the house, and I know you love Jasmine, you love dogs, could you do me a favor and just swing by the house and make sure that Jasmine gets her food, she gets her water, and that she goes for a walk? And my friend was like, listen, I got it, no problem. I got you covered. And so I remember flying out to the West Coast. And so I was at a conference, the whole day went by, and at the end of the day, I gave my friend a call, and I said, hey, listen, I just want to check in. Is everything okay with Jasmine? She said, no, everything's totally fine. I went by your house. I made sure Jasmine had food. I made sure she had water, and I took her for a walk 2 times today. I said, excellent. Thank you so much. You're absolutely awesome. The second day, I gave her a call. I said, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I gave her a call. I said, hey, listen, I just want to check in. Is everything okay? She said, everything is perfectly fine with Jasmine. I gave her food. I gave her water. I took her for a walk. Everything is totally fine. I'm like, yes, you're absolutely awesome. I appreciate it. Well, at the third day, at the end of the conference, now the following day I'm going to be flying back, but I said, let me just pick up the phone anyway and sort of check in and see how everything's going. And so I give her a call. I said, hello. And she's like, hello? And so I could immediately hear that there's something different in her voice. And I said, well, is everything okay? She goes, everything's okay. And don't worry, everything is definitely okay with Jasmine. I'm just not in too good of shape. I said, well, what do you mean you're not in too good of shape? And she said, well, actually, I'm leaving the hospital now. And I was like, well, why are you leaving the hospital? Did something happen? And she says, well, oh my gosh, Andy, it's a long story. I said, well, what happened? What happened? She says, well, listen, I went to your house just like I did in the previous days, just like you told me to. I made sure that Jasmine got her food, she got her water, I got her leash, and I went outside to go take her for a walk. And while we were going outside to go for a walk, she said, Jasmine saw the squirrel. And she said, as soon as Jasmine saw the squirrel, she just literally stopped dead in her tracks. She lifted one of her front paws, her ears shot up in the air, her tail went out straight, and she locked in on that squirrel. And she said, Andy, I tried to hold on to that leash. And she said, next thing you know, she said, Jasmine started lunging towards the squirrel. So now here's my friend, all 115 pounds of her is holding on to the leash. Well, Jasmine lunges forward. My friend who's holding on to the leash falls down to the ground. As she goes down to the ground, she twists her ankle. And when she falls down to the pavement, she squeezes and holds on to the leash. And Jasmine continues to take off and drag her on the pavement. Needless to say, she twisted her ankle. And of course, falling on the pavement and being dragged, she really, really got a lot of really bad scrapes and bruises. And so I'm hearing her and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. Is everything okay? I said, listen, what was your medical bills? Listen, I'll help out with that. She says, no, Andy, everything's okay. It was covered on insurance. I said, well, what was your copay? I said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But she said, the good thing is, listen, Jasmine is okay. And she's like, I'm going to be okay. And so by the end of the conversation, she starts laughing and she's like, no, I'm totally okay. It's going to be all right. Don't worry. Because I guess you could hear how concerned I was. And now that I'm pretty much like really, really reassured that she's perfectly okay. And so now I just simply got to ask her the question. And so I just asked her, I said, I got to ask you a question. I said, when Jasmine lunged forward and you fell down to the ground, I got to ask you this question. When you realized that Jasmine was still going, why didn't you just let go? And she thought about what I said for a moment. And there was silence for a moment. And then she said, Andy, I don't know. And I share that with you because, you see, there's an old proverb, and here's what it says. It says that sometimes you've got to learn to let go or be dragged. You see, my friend had an opportunity to let go of that leash, but instead she decided to hold on. And guess what ended up happening? She got dragged and she got really hurt. And see, what happens to a lot of us is there's something that we're holding on to. And we're holding on to it so tight that it is literally to our detriment. And so maybe perhaps it's a relationship that we know that has run its course and it's time to let go. Maybe perhaps it's a grudge. Somebody did something to us in the past and we believe that holding on to the grudge is like we're paying them back. And maybe perhaps we didn't realize, somebody once said that when you hold on to a grudge, it's the equivalent of you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, because that grudge is literally toxic and it's slowly killing you on the inside. You see, a lot of times we're holding on to something and it's literally dragging us in the opposite direction of what we want to make happen, in the opposite direction of our goals, the opposite direction of our dreams, the opposite direction of the things that we want to make come to fruition in our life. And we have to come to the realization that sometimes the best course of action is to learn how to simply open your hand and let go. And so maybe perhaps you've heard this story before, that there's this really cool a really, really fast little creature by the name of spider monkeys. And these spider monkeys were existing out in the forest area. And these people in this particular village were adamant about trying to capture these monkeys. And so they came up with all these little strategies and ways to try to catch these monkeys. And so they tried shooting the monkeys with tranquilizer guns in the trees. But these monkeys are so fast and so agile. When they would attempt to shoot these monkeys, they were the hardest, most difficult targets. And so they were wasting all these tranquilizers trying to shoot these monkeys down from the tree. Virtually impossible to get these monkeys. Then they said, hey, you know what? Let's do this. Let's put some nets out and see if we could go ahead and capture these monkeys. So they started throwing nets out, and these monkeys were so agile and they're so small, they were slipping through the little holes in the nets, and they just couldn't be able to catch these monkeys. So they tried putting some rope out and seeing if they could set little traps to get these monkeys, and it just wasn't happening for them. And then so finally somebody came up with a brilliant idea. And so all they did is they just simply got a bottle with a fairly narrow neck with an opening just big enough so that the monkeys could stick their hand inside. And inside the bottles, they decided to put one of the monkeys' favorite little treats. And so they knew that there's this particular nut that the monkeys really, really love. And so they put these little nuts inside the bottle. Now, here's the beautiful thing. These bottles basically had a thin neck opening. And so here's what happened every single time. These little monkeys would detect that these little nuts were around. However they sense these nuts, I don't know if it's through their smell or just looking around and just trying to find these little nuts. And they'd come across this bottle, and then all of a sudden they would see that there's some nuts in there or smell that there's some nuts in there. And the little monkey would stick its hand inside a little narrow opening and literally find the nut inside and then squeeze and go ahead and make a fist to grab onto the nuts. But here's the crazy thing that happened. Once these little spider monkeys had the nuts in their hand and they made the fist, now because their fist is significantly bigger, they couldn't pull their hands back out of the bottle. And so all these little capturers would do is they would wait for the little monkeys to find these little bottles, stick their little hands inside, grab the nuts, hold on, and then they would go on and go after the monkeys. And because of their hand being in the bottle and because of the weight of the bottle, they couldn't move around as fast as they could. So they became much easier targets to catch. And so that story is shared all the time because the crazy thing is that these little spider monkeys would be able to get away if all they did was simply open up their hands, let go of the nuts, and pull their hand back out of the bottle. But these little monkeys, when they would stick their hand inside and they would grab the nuts, they would hold on to the nuts so tightly and they would refuse to open up their palms, refuse to open up their hands. And because of that, that would lead to them actually being captured. And it's been said that they took it a step even further. And while these little monkeys had their hands inside these bottles, that you could go ahead and throw nuts all around them and they still wouldn't let go of the little nut that was in their hand that had their hand stuck in the bottle. It's even been said that you could even throw little banana treats around them and they would still have their fists closed tight and not be willing to open up their hands to pull it outside. And let me just tell you something. How often do we do that in life? Where we're holding on to something and we are literally closing our fists so tight that we have literally allowed ourselves to become trapped by this thing that we're holding on to. And so we're trapped emotionally, we're trapped financially, we are trapped and we're kept away from realizing our goals and our dreams, all because of the fact that we don't have enough fortitude and we don't have enough wisdom to go ahead and just simply open our hands. And so I'm challenging you right now to be thinking about for a moment, what is it that you're holding on to so tightly that is keeping you from moving forward, that is keeping you to get to your goals and your dreams, that is keeping you from making things happen. And so, you know what, that's one of those little silly little stories, but it creates a powerful visual. And so when we look at that little spider monkey, we're saying, man, how silly is that little monkey, that little monkey can't even open up its hands. But you know what, sometimes we have areas in our life that we're doing the exact same thing and it's just not as obvious to us. And so my challenge to you is to start looking at your life and start thinking about what are the areas in your life that you're just holding on to And I can look back in many instances in my own personal life. I remember getting a tip from one of my friends one time that told me about this great company that I should invest in. And so I remember spending some money and buying some stock. And right after buying the stock, that company the stock value went up significantly. And then all of a sudden, the company started to have a couple of financial issues. And so there started becoming drops in the price. And so everybody was literally just bailing out. People were saying, hey, you know what? It's too risky. We made our profit. I'm going to get out of there. And I was just holding on, and I was just creating a storyline for myself. Oh, I invested my money. I'm not going to be willing to, I can make more money. I'm going to just hold on. And I just kept holding on to the stock, holding on to the stock, holding on to the stock. And sometimes you got to do that. But the writing was on the wall that this company was in some serious, serious problems, the kind of problems that they may not recover from. And I just kept holding on and holding on and holding on. And finally, guess what? I got an email saying that the company went financially bankrupt. And so I got a lot of my friends who had also invested with this particular company, who had bought some of the stock. And guess what? Majority of them, they got their money out. And so maybe perhaps they didn't make as much as they wanted to, or maybe they took a little 10% loss, but they were willing to open their hands. They were willing to let go. But me, no, not me. I was holding on so tight. I refused to let go. And because of that, guess what happened? I lost all of it. I lost my entire investment. Literally, that stock turned into a penny stock and the company would eventually become insolvent. Why? Because I was so committed and so adamant about holding on that I just wasn't willing to let go. And sometimes we got to be able to evaluate our situation and literally start asking ourselves the question, is this a situation where I continue to hold on, or is this a situation where I need to learn to start letting go? And so I want you to just literally start thinking about your life and think about the different aspects of your life and think for a moment, is there something or someone or a past experience that you're just clinging on to and that you refuse to let go, that is keeping you from moving forward, that is keeping you from getting to the next level? And if that's the case, I want you to seriously consider about letting go. That proverb, I want you to think about it. It says, let go or be dragged. And who wants to be dragged? Who wants to deal with that pain? Who wants to be pulled in the opposite direction of their goals and their dreams? Who wants to forfeit years of their life holding a grudge against somebody else? Who wants to forfeit getting to the next level because you keep replaying an old past experience or something that somebody did to you or something that didn't work out? Listen, that's an old story. And if you keep holding on to that same old story, then guess what? You get everything that comes with that story. If you keep holding on to those same old excuses, guess what? You get everything that comes with those excuses. And so I believe personally, when we're trying to get to the next level, when we're trying to move on, when we're trying to experience some healing, that we got to go through the process of literally letting go. And so I want you to remember this. Sometimes you just got to let go or be dragged. And remember that sometimes it takes even more strength, more courage, more insight, more wisdom to just be willing to let go than it does to hold on. And so why are you continuing to hold on to those thoughts, those ideas, those toxic relationships, those habits, those things that are no longer serving you, those things that are really causing you to not be at your peak level? And so maybe perhaps this is the time right now that you just make the decision, that you make the commitment to just simply let go. And so I'm sincerely hoping that if there's something in your life, someone, or even a past circumstance or an excuse that you've been holding on to, then maybe perhaps that today be the day that you finally let it go. You. This is the time right now. I'm talking to you. for you to let it go. Well, this wouldn't be Andy Henriquez if I didn't end by telling you this. Show up for your lives, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you don't show up, if you aren't willing to let go of those things that continue to keep you from moving forward and getting to that next place in your life, that next level in your life, if you won't take full responsibility and ownership for showing up for your life, then guess what? Nobody else will. I am so happy that you tuned in and you joined me tonight for the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational live stream and conference call. And I'm hoping that you're going to examine your life. As Socrates once said, that an unexamined life is not worth living. That you're going to examine your life and think for a moment, what are some things that may perhaps I need to let go of? And I believe if you'll have the courage and the strength to let go, that you're going to be freed from so many things, and that you're going to enter a new season and really step to a next level, a next platform of your life. And so I'm really, really hoping that you're going to take this to heart. And so, of course, like always, before we open up the lines and I hear from some of you, I just want to remind you of a couple of things. First and foremost, if you haven't already done so, I want you to get a copy of my book. It's called Show Up for Your Life, 7 Principles to Living an Extraordinary Life. In this book, I share 7 very powerful principles that are designed to equip you to take your life to the next level, to take you from just, literally just going from a place of mediocrity and just going through the motion to really truly getting to that place where you are now making significant impact and significant a contribution with your own personal life. And so in the book, I share these powerful principles, these powerful stories, and give you powerful exercises that are designed to give you the principles that you need to be able to take your life to that next level so that you can go from living an ordinary life to living an extraordinary life. You can get a copy of the book at Amazon.com. You get a copy of the book at BarnesandNobles.com. Or you can also go to showupforyourlifebook.com. Once again, that is showupforyourlifebook.com. And so that is going to be a tremendous resource. That is something you want to read through and, go back through it again because I personally believe that you're going to be inspired to do something different with your life, to take your life to an entirely different level. And here's the other thing, too. As many of you know, I specifically work with speakers, coaches, and authors, and individuals who are looking to be able to take their platform to the next level, specifically by connecting with people through their stories. And so if you're looking to have a little more influence, if you're looking to better connect with your audience, if you're looking to better promote your products and your services, I believe by far one of the best ways for you to do that is by leveraging your stories. And so periodically, I do live storytelling sessions and workshops, and I also do storytelling coaching. If you're interested in finding a little more about that, or you just want to set up to have a conversation with myself or one of my team members to find out how you could possibly work with me to be able to strengthen your storytelling, go to the website right now, storywithandy.com, storywithandy.com. As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to this Saturday is one of my full-day storytelling intensive, where I'm going to be working with a very small group of individuals, and we're going to spend the day really laying out the importance of story, pulling out people's stories, and then giving them an opportunity to practice those stories so that they can increase their level of delivery and so that they can increase their confidence level when they go back to talk to their customers and their clients, and when they're getting in front of different audiences so that they can make greater impact. And so if you want to at least be on the waiting list for the next event, or if you just want to be able to connect and get more details, go to storywithandy.com. Once again, that is storywithandy.com. And so like always, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure we open up the lines. I'm going to take 1 or 2 questions or comments, and then I actually have to jump onto another conference call. And so we'll go ahead and take 1 or 2 more questions or comments. We're going to go ahead and open up the lines. I also want to remind you, for those